we are taking about small group 101. So hang in there with me if you're someone who would say, I never do small group. I don't want to do small group. I'm not doing it. Because I think that when you hear a little bit more about the types of small group, you'll agree that it's maybe not what you think. If you're a person that already does small group, you've got a system, hang on, because I think you're also going to hear some alternatives to what you're doing that could work in addition to maybe what you're already doing. All right, so if you don't know who I am, I'm Shannon Keebler. I am the moderator of our Math Expressions user Facebook group. I've planned or taught every single lesson in Math Expressions, kindergarten through sixth grade. I know the resource really well, and I work very closely with the author, Dr. Karen Fusen, teachers just like you around the nation. If I work with your school, just say hey in the chat. If you're watching, say hey, let me know where you're from and how much snow you have. And if you don't have any, then let me know that too. But I know a lot of us are in freezing below temperature weather. So that's really my role, is now just to help teachers like you implement expressions and implement the way that it is designed and the way that we figure out with real life evidence that it just works, right? So what does it look like in our individual classrooms? That's what we're going to talk about. So tonight it's 101. We're going to talk just kind of the definition of that small group instruction. So when we talk whole group versus small group, I want you to get out of your head the reading small group. Okay, so what you do for reading small group can be similar to what you do for math, but the difference for math is that it is not a structured schedule, meaning it isn't every single day. For our math block, I'm going to do a 15-minute small group or whole group mini session. Then I'm going to go into small group sessions for 10-minute rotations each. And I have kids rotating to me at a small kidney table or something. And it's timed, and then they do centers, and then time's up and math is over. Now, it doesn't mean that can't be one of your structures, but I would just argue that that is not a structure that can be accommodated every single day in math. And it really doesn't fit the philosophy, if you will, of a math expressions classroom, or even beyond math expressions, just a best math practices, right? So when we talk about our instructional practices, the practice standards that we all know, there's 8 of them: K-12, persevere in problem solving, use precision, all of those things. I feel like need some whole group instruction time as well. So here are some structures I just want you to think about. Number one, when you choose to go to small group, go back and watch another video I just recently did about where it's at, even in the teacher's guide, right? Like, where does the teacher's guide tell us? There's a training I have here. I want you to go look for it in the group about where the teacher's guide says, hey, you should do small group. But what I want you to hear is that 60-minute core instruction or 70-minute core instruction with K2. 60 minutes would be a 3-6 situation, right? That we want to tackle the standard. And in whatever way we can give kids the most amount of time with that standard and wherever they are in the learning path, then that's the structure we want to use. So it just varies, because we could be teaching in 4th grade long division we do for a whole unit, but even just like the various methods, we could be teaching, let's just say, the expanded method for 4 days. Okay, it just keeps going and going and going, like forever. If you're teaching 2nd grade right now, you're probably teaching subtraction with ungrouping. We teach that for almost a whole unit, and it goes on forever. Well, the first few days of introducing something new like long division or subtraction with ungrouping, honestly, I'm not going to be in small group, because I'm introducing a topic in which I want to use more of a not small group, excuse me. I want to use more of an inquiry model where kids are learning from each other. We're introducing various methods. We're just kind of bringing to the table what it means and how it works. There's a lot of collaboration there. As I move through those lessons and students now have been introduced to what it is and kind of how it works, I start to see those gaps in understanding. I start to see the kids that still need more experience with the manipulatives, kids that need more experience with maybe the area model or the place value sections, kids that have really mastered that and are ready to make a connection to more of an algebraic or a shortcut method. I start to see where kids vary possibly in what they need to do next to move in that standard. When I see that, then I'm thinking I should probably consider some small group instruction. So when we're thinking whole group core instructional time, okay, this is not tier 2 time, this is not tier 3 time. Of course, that is completely different. That is a different way that we're going to use small groups. I'm talking tonight small group 101 and core instruction. Okay, so here's 4 different things. I have some notes just so I don't forget. So the first one is meet with one group of students at the end of the day for 10 minutes. So this is kind of my go-to for when I am in those whole group days where we've been learning like subtraction and grouping all day together. We've been doing back and forth practices, whatever the case may be. And I'm like, finally, okay, we've got to practice independently. I generally advocate for 10 minutes of uninterrupted, independent practice a day, no matter who you are or what grade you teach. We can get caught in whole group of guiding too much and holding hands too much, where kids never have to do anything independently. Now, we can also do the opposite, where we give them too much independent time, release them. Now I have kids that are finished with the page, and some kids that didn't even do one problem. Okay, so it's a balanced approach here, but 10 minutes of a guided release. So when I'm doing that, I'm saying something like, hey, why don't you do the first row of problems on page, whatever the page might be, maybe on their whiteboards or whatever. And I'm going to give them a system for partner work, a system for accountability of once you do one problem, you have to turn to your neighbor, your peanut butter jelly partner. And I want peanut butters to tell jelly step by step what they did. Jellies, you're going to go check the answer up, on my book that's on the document camera, something to see, like, make sure like we got that one right. Okay, we're allowed to move on to number 2. There has to be some sort of a system there so that kids are not practicing wrong. Right? If they could do a whole page, but they did something wrong, the whole page, that was really poor practice. Okay, so it's a guided release practice. So I'm doing that for 10 minutes. It's during that 10 minutes that now I have some options. This option I just said was, I'm just going to pull a group. I already know this person, this person, this person, this other person, and this person are showing me via formative assessment they're not ready for partner work. They're not ready to be released completely to independent. Now, I don't want it to be the same kids every day, which I know it feels like it is, but I have to give them a chance to release, because some of those kids will raise their hand every single day, like, who thinks they still need help, come to my back table. And it's literally the same kids every day. That is a confidence issue, not an ability issue. So I have to still push kids gently to release from me. But let's just say I'm noticing that these particular kids, based on whatever the formative assessment is, they need some small group instruction with me, where I am watching them make their math drawing, let's just say, because there's something going on, they're missing something, or they don't understand how to do the markings or the place value drawing, or what, I don't know, whatever the case may be. So it's a back and forth with me for that 10 minutes, mostly them working and me asking guiding questions or scaffolding along the way, where I can catch them in the moment of, oh, right here is where you need to make that shift. Right here is where you need to use that chart. Okay, so that's a purposeful time that's 10 minutes. It could be at the end of the math day. It could be at the end of the activity, where it's like 4 or 5 minutes at the end of activity 1. And kids do independently are only working on 1 or 2 problems. I pull a group and we're going to do those 1 or 2 problems together, where I'm watching them still try it independently. I'm there to support. Okay, we're not like just doing it together. That's option 1. A second option, which is a really good responsive option. Number 2 is run actual rotations. Okay, so this is more of a procedural fluency day. This would be where we've been practicing subtracting with ungrouping for like what feels like forever. And honestly, they just need practice now. Like, we've talked about the methods, we've done the drawings, we've had kids come up and share, like, literally we've done it with manipulatives, like, we've done it for so many times. Like, they just need practice now. They just need to build procedural fluency. That would be a great day to do the station rotation. Okay, that means that I might do a quick mini lesson, and now I might have kids broken into individual groups based on either their need, like these kids are working on the place value drawing, these kids are working on the expanded method, these kids need to move to the shortcut method. It might be blended groups. There's a variety of ways we can group. That's a topic for another day. But I might have them in groups, and now literally at like my kidney table or back table, each group rotates to me. And when they rotate to me, I am working on whatever it is that I have identified that they need. This type of small group works really well in the Mastery Learning Loop. This works really well the day after a quick quiz, where I've stopped all instruction and I just need to do some targeted work on what I'm seeing students did not understand in the on the quick quiz. Okay, so I sort my kids based on whatever it is they didn't get. And now I'm meeting with kids. They rotate to me. I stay still and kids come to me. We work on whatever they're supposed to be working on. Timer goes off. They rotate out. Another group rotates in. And then I have a list of things that the kids are not with me need to do. There's two ways to do that. A must do and a may do. Okay, like just a list on the board. If you're not with me, you're doing those things. Or it could be a rotation, it could be actual centers. And you have different activities from the teacher's guide, the activity book, Think Central. If you're in the Math Genius Squad, you know I've already given you 5 stations, like times at least 2 or 3 per station for the entire unit. You can always pull from those, and that's a chance for kids to practice independently with whatever the skill might be when they're not with you. No matter what, when they're not with you, it's an accountability issue. If that group of students, let's say group A, comes to see me and I'm working on what they didn't understand, which was drawings, why they're in my group, then that means for another 40 to 50 minutes, they're not with me and they could be practicing wrong. We have to make sure that's not happening. So whatever it is they're doing when they're not with me has to be something at their independent level, or an accountability system is in place to catch when things are not going right. Again, another topic, another day, but something to think about. Okay, so that's like a rotation station type of thing. It could be with centers, it could be whatever, but kids are rotating to you. All right, number 3, half the class at the front with you, half the class at their seats. I do this one a lot. This is when I feel like whatever it is I'm teaching, I honestly just can't do it to the whole group. Like I'm losing kids. I have engagement issues. This is also those classes, those years that are just so hard where you're like, I just can't. I'm doing more managing than I'm doing teaching when I have them all in whole group, like at the carpet or whatever. And I'm like, I just have got to get through this particular content. Often then that's when I'll use number 3. That's when I'll say, I want half the class. Half of you are staying with me. Generally, it's mixed levels. I'm not doing any sort of performance grouping right now. It's mixed because I still want to treat it like a whole group situation in terms of hearing good thinkers think about math and seeing different representations, seeing those, how they did it with manipulatives, who did it with drawings, connecting for everyone. That's really good math instruction. So I'm just doing it in a smaller group. In my opinion, small group is anything that's not whole group. So it could be 75% of your classes with you, 15% have been released to go do something different. That's still a smaller group during core instruction. Again, there are different rules for intervention, right? But when I'm looking at whole group core and I have half the class with me, I was just saying this to Heidi in Grass Lakes as we were talking about with kindergarten. Kindergarten is one of the places I do it. They take their trays and I'll have half the class on the floor with me with their trays, like we're being on a circle, and we're all learning about, building the number 6 or whatever. And everyone who's not with me, there are rules and protocols about what they're supposed to be doing. Maybe they're practice writing their 6s. Maybe they're doing their iReady practice on their computer. Maybe they're doing whatever it might be, but I've given them something to do. Now, the kids that are at my carpet, I might say, okay, first thing now that I've done this lesson with you, you're going to go back to your seat. And I want you to practice the next 2 problems in the workbook by yourself, only 2. Then your next activity is, and it's something they can be independent and successful with. But I do want to see if I release them, could they do at least 2 problems on their own? They're going to come back to me after we switch again, and I'm saying how those 2 problems go, and I'm looking and watching. If I get the glory of an aide or a parent to help, that problem is solved in of itself. We can make sure that they're not practicing incorrectly, right? The problem with this model is that whatever it is that students are doing independently when they're not with me needs to be core instruction. I can't fit the lesson in as it is in 60 minutes and make sure that kids get a full 60 minutes on that standard. If I'm having to have kids work independently, but they're not ready to be independent on this particular skill, then I'm having them practice other things that are important, but now really they only got half the time on the core concept. That will long term slow down my pacing and impact my proficiency levels because they're just not giving enough time and exposure to that content. So I'm not suggesting we do this on a regular basis, like every day. Again, none of these structures are like every day I do this. There's times where this just feels like it works better. And including sometimes at the end of a unit when there's more independency and kids can be more independent when they're not with me. All right, last but not least is number 4. And number 4 is students are the ones that are in small collaborative groups, and I'm the one that's moving. Okay, so this might be where I put up a problem on the board. I put up this, so I'm with subtraction and grouping for whatever reason. So I give them a problem and I say, okay, every group, so my kids are grouped in pods, maybe pod of 4, 6 or something. And I say, every group, I need you to build it, draw it, write it. And I've said, as a group or as partners, you decide however it is, you must build it first with the manipulatives I've given you. Then I want you on your whiteboards to show me how you would draw out this problem. Then on your whiteboards, I want you to show me how you would write the problem using numeric steps. I might do something like that. Just that's an example. I might just do one. Just show me with your manipulatives. I want you to solve every problem, numbers 1, 2, and 3, using your manipulatives. I'll come around to talk and ask questions. They're all working and they have a protocol to follow. They have a list to follow. They know what they have to accomplish. They know the conversation they have to have with each other, whether it's the small group or a partnership. And now I'm moving. And as I rotate from group to group and check in, I'm saying, I'm noticing that Rachel's really dominating this conversation. I have no idea if Lily has ever said a single word or if she's literally just copying Rachel. I'm asking questions to Lily. Lily, explain why Rachel put the 10 there. Lily, what does this mean in her drawing? And whatever I'm getting that assessment data of Rachel, I need you to be a better coach. And now I'm coaching Rachel on what her role is in this group. Okay, so those are all the norming and protocols that I'm doing to make sure this actually works well. I'm also providing those enriching questions. Sometimes this is when I group kids by performance levels for this particular activity, because I can drop different types of questions. I might come over here to this table group and change the numbers and say, like maybe I only give them 2 digits, or maybe I only give them factors with 2s, 5s, and 9s because they aren't proficient yet with their 6, 7s, and 8s. I don't want them to have that same problem. So I can scaffold the problem. I can go from one end to the next. The next end would be something like, okay, so is this always true? I can drop some extending questions or maybe some higher order thinking tasks for other groups. I drop the question, I walk away, I go to another group, we have some conversations, I check in with kids, I come back and check on that other group. There's no prescribed time, there's no prescribed timer. It's just everyone's working and I'm working the room. That's another version of small group. So that's all during core instruction. Now, we'll talk again at another time about what it means if we're doing targeted intervention or skill work with our tier 2 or our tier 3 students. But this is during core time when we're getting kids to work collaboratively and I'm working on a particular standard or a skill. So those are my 4. Again, just to review, 1 is meeting with students at the end of a math block or an activity for a total of 10 minutes. If you do it at the end of an activity, it could be 4 minutes for activity 1, 5 minutes, 6 minutes for activity 2. They still got at least 10 minutes of independent practice in that day. I run a small group for whatever the need is. Number 2, run actual rotation stations, right? Kids rotate through me based on various criteria. They have independent, accountable work they're doing when they're not with me. Number 3 is half the class in front of me, half the class at their table groups. There's a must do or a may do list. There's things they have to do independently, but I'm basically teaching the lesson just in 2 big groups, just for managing and for behavior situations. And number 4 is students are the ones that are in small collaborative groups around the room, and I'm the one that rotates between them. Thanks, everyone, and we will see you online next. Bye for now.